Incredible journey, how a shy millionaire discovered heartwarming love with his surrogate mother. In the heart of Chicago, where the skyline sparkles with the promises of success, Ben stood isolated in a world of affluence. At 32, the millionaire tech mogul had everything: money, power, the glossy veneer of a charmed life, but the weight of wealth pressed heavily on his chest. Strangers greeted him with forced smiles at endless parties, but behind the facade lay a deep longing for real connection. Beneath the suits and tailored shoes, Ben felt like a ghost in a steel and glass maze. Then, one fateful evening, as he watched the sun dip behind the skyline, illuminating the city in shades of gold and orange, Ben felt a different kind of spark. No extravagant business deal could fill the void left by loneliness, so he made a decision that would alter the course of his life. With a fluttering heart, he reached out to Sarah, a kind-hearted single mother he had met during a charity event. Sarah, with her nurturing spirit, dedicated her life to others as a community nurse, and she needed more than just a paycheck. She needed a chance at an adventure, a leap of faith. Their journey into surrogacy blossomed against the vibrant backdrop of the busy city streets. Laughter echoed on the sidewalks as Ben and Sarah spent afternoons roaming parks with her effervescent son Oliver, whose infectious giggle chased away Ben's insecurities. Each moment was a balm for their lonely souls. The initial hesitation melted away as he watched Sarah cradle Oliver, her love spilling over like the summer sun. His heart opened. He began to remember lessons from his late mother about empathy and compassion, rekindling the warmth he thought had vanished. But as they navigated the road ahead, contrary winds blew in. The news of their unconventional partnership rippled through their circles, leaving behind whispers and judgment. Sarah's friends rallied, viewing her choice as a betrayal, and wondering aloud if she'd become another statistic of a struggling single mother exploited by wealth. Their harsh words stung like holy water dashed against his skin, igniting a war within Sarah that tore at her loyalty and love. Ben wrestled with his privilege, anxious that he could be seen as just another rich guy with a heartless agenda. Just as their bond grew thicker, the world outside swirled with scandal. A miscommunication erupted into chaos, raising questions about Sarah's integrity and his intentions. Shock stretched across their faces like a tightrope, and the weight of expectation loomed large. His chest tightened as he confronted the insatiable beast of societal judgment. The looming conflict ignited something deeper, a crucial moment where both Ben and Sarah had to unmask their vulnerabilities. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening.
YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Standing on a crowded street, Ben watched Sarah start to walk away, her expression a mix of pain and resolve. Hope flickered within him, dimmed by the burdens they carried. Would love truly bridge the cavern that lay between their worlds? Sweat trickled down his back as he fought the urge to call out, to confess that he believed in them. But as he turned, a newspaper headline caught his eye. Yet another community backlash against their bond. Tension filled his soul. Would their love withstand the relentless gaze of society, or would they be torn apart by misunderstandings? Ben's heart raced as the reality of the headlines permeated his thoughts. Each word felt like a dagger, aimed not just at him, but at Sarah too. Why should they be judged for seeking happiness in the most unconventional of circumstances? He turned sharply, his mind churning with questions. If only they could escape the scrutiny. If only they could agree on how to confront this storm together. He took a deep breath as he hurried after her. "Sarah!" he called out, desperation coloring his voice. The crowd was thick, each face a blur of indifference as he navigated through the throng. She paused, her shoulders slumping slightly. The street noise faded into the background as he reached her, chest heaving. "Please, let's talk." "I don't think there's anything left to say, Ben," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, but the determination was like a shield. Her amber eyes glimmered with unshed tears, and all he wanted was to wipe away her pain. But how? "Give me a chance to explain, not to the world, but to you," he pleaded, taking a step closer. "I never meant for this to happen. The rumors, they don't define us." Her brows furrowed, uncertainty waging war with her resolve. "But they could define Oliver's future," she replied, biting her lip, an ache in her heart that mirrored his. "People won't understand. They'll only see what they want to see." "Then let's show them," he urged. "Let's be the example they need, together." There was something in that word, together, that struck a chord, igniting hope. She hesitated, glancing down at Oliver, who was tugging at her pants leg, oblivious to the weight of adult concerns. The innocence radiating from him was a reminder that they weren't just fighting for themselves. They had a child at the center of this battle. "How do we combat their hatred?" Sarah asked, glancing away as if searching for answers in the concrete beneath her feet. "By opening our lives."
By sharing our truth. Ben stepped back, giving her space. "Let's host a gathering, not just of friends, but also the naysayers. Let them see who we truly are." A flicker of something, interest perhaps, crossed her face. "And if they don't want to listen? Then it will be their loss," he replied passionately. "But I believe that if we are honest, they might see how beautiful our story is, how it's not just about us, but about love, connection, and family." Her expression softened, but doubt still lingered. "You think it'll be that simple?" A resigned smile touched his lips. "Nothing worthwhile ever is. But we owe it to ourselves, and to Oliver, to try." Silence hung between them like a thin veil. Ben could see the wheels turning in her mind. Hope danced on the edge, threatening to tip into despair. But just then, Oliver squealed with laughter, breaking the moment of tension. They both turned to see him pointing at the horizon, where the sun began to set, casting vibrant hues of pink and purple across the sky. "Mom, look at the pretty colors!" he exclaimed, joy radiating from his little voice. Sarah's eyes sparkled, and in her gaze, Ben saw the flicker of resolve return. Maybe, just maybe, that childlike wonder could heal the wounds they faced. "Okay," she finally said, her voice steady. "Let's do it. We'll show them what this family looks like." Ben's heart surged. "I know we can make it work." But as they exchanged a hopeful smile, Ben felt the weight of looming challenges trailing behind them. Would their plan truly strengthen their bond, or would it expose them to more pain? Determined yet anxious, they set to create the event that could turn their fate. And while the promise of unity shimmered before them, shadows of doubt began to gather, foreboding and lingering, reminding Ben that the toughest part of love is often not the connection, but fighting for it. As preparations began, an unexpected visitor landed on their doorstep, someone from the past, with secrets that could change everything. Who were they, and what did they want? The doorbell rang, a sound that jolted both Ben and Sarah from their thoughts. It echoed through the quiet home, a reminder that the outside world intruded even on their most personal moments. "Who is that?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowing with concern. "I'm not sure." Ben felt a nervous flutter in his stomach as he moved to answer the door, leaving the comforting embrace of their tentative plan behind. He turned the handle slowly, heart racing as uncertainty goaded him. Standing on the doorstep was a woman in her late 30s, her hair dark and neatly tied back. She had an enigmatic aura, but it was her eyes that caught Ben's attention, a storm of emotion swirling in them. "Can I help you?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Ben," she said, almost hesitantly, as if tasting the name. "It's me, Emily." The name hit him like a punch. Emily. The past surged forward, memories battling against the present. Years of silence numbed by all that they lost. "Emily? I didn't expect to see you here." His voice wavered, caught between disbelief and dread. "Can I come in?" she asked, glancing over her shoulder, as if the weight of her presence could draw attention. With a silent nod, he stepped back, allowing her to enter. The moment she crossed the threshold, he sensed Sarah's tension, rigid and alarmed. The air thickened with unspoken histories as Ben shut the door. "Ben, is everything okay?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly, concern etched on her face. It's Emily," he managed, a lump forming in his throat. The tension in the room intensified.
Sarah's eyes flicked from Ben to Emily, searching for context. "What do you want?" she asked, her tone cautious. Emily took a deep breath, her composure fighting against the vulnerability in her expression. "I came to talk about Oliver. I heard what's been happening." "Why now?" Ben asked, confusion threading through his words. "You disappeared without a trace. You haven't been part of our lives for so long." Emily flinched. "I know, and I regret it. But things have changed, and I owe it to Oliver to explain." "Explain? You think just words will make everything all right?" Sarah interrupted, her voice laced with anger and fear. "I need to tell you the truth about who I am," Emily said, her gaze falling to the floor before lifting again. "About why I was never there. It's complicated." "The truth? This is what you came back for after all this time?" Ben pressed, emotions swirling within him. Oliver bounded into the room, unaware of the storm brewing. "Mom, look what I drew!" he exclaimed, holding out a crayon masterpiece. Joy flickered briefly in Sarah's eyes, but it was quickly swallowed by a weighty atmosphere. It was hard to focus on her son when their past had just knocked at their door, demanding to be addressed. "We can't do this now, Emily," Ben finally said, his voice firm, but inside he was torn. "We have to focus on our gathering, on fighting against everything that's been said about us." "Then I'll help you," Emily said, surprising them both, "if you'll let me. But I need to share what I know first. Please, you can't leave this unspoken. The life you're building for Oliver, it's crucial." Ben exchanged a glance with Sarah, her expression a whirlwind of emotions, confusion, anger, a seed of interest. The idea of gathering now felt overshadowed by the complexities of the past intertwining with their future. "Okay," Sarah said slowly, her voice shaky. "Tell us everything." With that, as the room filled with the weight of unspoken truths, Ben couldn't shake the feeling that this conversation could either strengthen their fragile unity or threaten to tear them apart. What secrets did Emily hold, and how would the revelation change everything for their little family?
Emily took a deep breath, her eyes darting between Ben and Sarah, then to Oliver, who was still holding his drawing, unaware of the heaviness in the air. "It's about your father, and mine," she began, her voice steadier than it had been moments before. "Oliver deserves to know who he really is, who he comes from, and you both need to understand what that might mean." "What do you mean?" Ben asked, confusion flooding his expression. Emily hesitated, glancing at the child in the room, then back at Ben. "Oliver's biological father isn't who you think. It's someone important, someone who could change everything for your family." Sarah felt a chill crawling up her spine. "What do you know about him?" Her voice cracked with tension. "I know more than I wanted to, that I should have told you earlier," she admitted, her voice breaking for a moment. "But I was scared of being rejected again." Ben clenched his fists. "You're saying Oliver's father is someone else? I don't know if you remember, but when everyone was in turmoil about your surrogate options, I was involved behind the scenes. I took more responsibility than I should have, thinking I was protecting him. The truth is, I was taking your decisions away from you." "Why would you do that?" Now Sarah's voice trembled, frustration boiling under her calm facade. "I didn't want anyone to get hurt. There were forces at work, people who wanted to leverage Oliver's birth for their gain. I thought I was saving him. I had no idea I would hurt you so much." Emily's voice was thick with regret, and Ben could see the pain in her eyes. Oliver, feeling the tension, came closer to Sarah and tugged at her pant leg. "Mommy?" he said, looking up at her with wide, trusting eyes. She knelt down and pulled him into her arms, heart racing as waves of emotion crashed against her. "Sweetheart, it's okay," she whispered, but even to her own ears it sounded shaky. "Please, can you tell us who this person is?" Ben's voice softened slightly. "The biological father. His name is Daniel. Your former partner from your business, Ben." The admission hung in the air like a lead weight. Ben's heart dropped. Memories flooded back, a friendship fraught with complexities and unspoken feelings layered beneath their professional relationship. He felt the room spin as he tried to process the revelation. "No, it can't be," he muttered, staring at Emily, searching for some sign that this was a cruel joke. But seeing her sincerity only deepened his despair. Sarah's grip around Oliver tightened. "So what does that mean for us? For him?" "It means," Emily said,
her voice now firm, "that he might have rights. Rights you both need to be aware of if he chooses to come forward. Oliver deserves to know his roots. As his parents, you need to decide how you'll handle it." The silence was deafening. Sarah's heart raced, tears welling in her eyes.
Ben felt like he was sinking into an abyss, visions of their carefully crafted family dream cracking at the seams. "We can't let him take Oliver away," Ben finally said, a protective instinct igniting within him. "Not after everything we've built together. He's ours. We chose him." Emily nodded, the weight of her presence grounding the room's frantic energy. "I know, but you should prepare for the worst and hope for the best." "What are we going to do?" Sarah whispered, fresh dread spiraling through her. Ben felt his world shift, knowing everything was teetering on the edge of chaos. And just like that, Oliver offered a bright smile, completely unaware of the breakthroughs and breakdowns happening around him as he held up his drawing again. "Can we hang this up?" he asked, his innocent excitement contrasting sharply with the heavy atmosphere. Ben's heart ached, between love for his son and the uncertainty of their future. Voices all around him faded as he focused on Oliver's radiant smile. What would this mean for their family? As Ben stared at Oliver, a deeper question emerged. What would they fight for? But more importantly, would love be strong enough to tether them together amidst the storm? The room held its breath as the revelation hummed thick in the air. Emily couldn't shake off the sadness pooling in her chest. She watched as Ben's face morphed from confusion to anguish, and Sarah's smile gradually faded, dimming under the weight of uncertainty. And there was Oliver, bubbling with joy, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. "Let's hang it up," Ben said, breaking the silence. His voice, strained but firm, attempted to reclaim some normalcy. He walked over to Oliver and knelt beside him, focusing on the child's drawing. Bright colors, ragged edges, pure innocence. "It's beautiful, buddy. You did such an amazing job." Emily admired how Ben's attention shifted, if only for a moment, to that radiant smile on his son's face. It showed a glimmer of resilience, a light to guide them through the encroaching darkness. She wished so desperately that this revelation hadn't strained the love that filled the room. Sarah stood frozen, clutching Oliver tightly, torn between protecting the little boy she loved and the gnawing anxiety of what the future could hold. "We need to talk about this," she finally said, her voice trembling as if the very act of speaking would shatter their world. Ben looked up at her, the spark of anger igniting in his eyes. "Talk? About what? Who Daniel is? What he might take from us?" He stood, frustration ripping through his calm facade. Sarah placed Oliver down gently and stepped closer to Ben, her heart racing. "We need to be realistic, Ben. If Daniel comes forward, he has legal rights. We can't ignore that." "Don't you dare speak as if he's a threat," Ben shot back, hands balled into fists. "He has no claim to Oliver. We raised him. This is our family. Who does he think he is?"
"Someone who could change everything," Emily whispered, a faint tremor in her voice. "We have to prepare ourselves, Ben. Ignorance won't shield us." Oliver, sensing the rising tension, looked back and forth between the adults, his innocence becoming the backdrop to a battle that was brewing just behind his joyful laughter. "Can we have ice cream after hanging up my picture?" he asked brightly. The question hit like a soothing balm over the heated atmosphere. But as the gravity of the situation anchored them again, Ben lost his smile. He placed a hand on Oliver's shoulder. "Yeah, we will. We just what?" Sarah interjected, her own emotions bubbling just beneath the surface. "What are we going to do when Daniel decides to come looking for him? We can't just ignore this." Ben turned to Sarah, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "We protect him. We're his parents. We always have been." "Being a parent won't make this go away," Emily said gently. "You know he deserves the truth, right? Not just from me, but from you two." "I just refuse to believe he'd take him," Ben said, though uncertainty clung to the edges of his statement. As the room fell into a heavier silence, Oliver looked up, still confused but unwavering. "Can we hang it up now?" he repeated. "I want everyone to see." It was a stark reminder of the innocence that was at stake, drawing a deeper wedge into the pulse of the conversation. "Yes, honey, let's hang it up," Sarah finally said, determination weaving back into her voice. They would fight, but at what cost? As Ben waved a hand towards the wall, where he had envisioned Oliver's joyful drawing hanging for everyone to admire, he suddenly felt a realization wash over him. What if the love they had built wasn't strong enough? "Will it still be the same?" he asked, his own voice trembling now. He turned to Emily, searching for clarity, for some meaning among the chaos. "You have to decide what matters most," Emily replied softly. "Family is defined by more than just blood." With those words hanging in the air, they all knew a choice had to be made. Where would this lead them? What sacrifices would they make to keep their family whole? And as Oliver watched, his innocent eyes filled with hope, Ben felt the weight of everything settle deep in his chest. "We can't lose him," he murmured, barely audible. But even as they felt the depths of despair creeping in, the glimmer of hope remained. Would they be brave enough to face the truth ahead? As they hung the drawing on the wall together, a question loomed larger than any of their fears. How far would they go to protect the love they had built amidst a looming storm? The tension in the air danced like flickering shadows as they admired the drawing securely affixed to the wall. Ben's heart raced with a mix of anxiety and fierce devotion. His fingers tightened around Oliver's shoulder, as if he could physically anchor his son against the unknown. "Can we eat ice cream now?"
"Oliver!" chirped again, his innocence providing a fragile shield against the grown-up turmoil swirling around him. Emily watched as Ben struggled to pull a smile from somewhere deep within himself. He kneeled down, smoothing his palm across the vibrant drawing, as if the colors could brighten the dimming spirits in the room. "Absolutely, buddy. Let's do that." Ben's voice held a waver, a flicker of uncertainty, but he pushed through, hoping to create a moment of joy. Sarah turned away briefly, swiping at a tear hovering at the edge of her eye. The weight of the conversation before loomed over her, threatening, menacing. "We can figure this out," she said, almost to convince herself more than anyone else. She wanted Oliver to see the world as a playful playground and not the minefield that had just exploded into their lives. "Figure what out?" Ben echoed, frustration creeping back. "We can't just hope this will disappear. We have to face what's coming." Silence washed over them, thick and suffocating. Emily sensed vulnerability playing within each of them, but fought the urge to speak again, as if more words would only worsen the fracture. "Oliver needs to know the truth," Emily finally said, her voice quiet yet clear, standing firm as if she could represent a bridge between the rising tides of distress. "It's too soon," Ben shot back, incredulous that anyone could even suggest it. "He's only 5. What can he possibly understand about this?" "But he's also savvy," Sarah joined cautiously, trying to find a way to sway Ben. "Kids aren't as naive as we think. He senses when things aren't right." As they debated, Oliver began to fidget, fingers drumming on the table. "Why are you guys fighting? I just want to eat ice cream, and maybe share it with Daniel, too." The mention of Daniel's name slipped innocently from his lips and struck like a thunderclap in the room. "Daniel?" Ben repeated, tone rising, eyes flaring with fresh anger. "He's my other dad, right?" Oliver said. His innocent question struck deeper than any cold reality they feared. The room stood still. He's not your dad," Ben stuttered, scrambling for words that wouldn't hurt. Oliver's wide eyes filled with confusion. "But he's my real dad in the picture, isn't he?" A quiet gasp escaped from Emily. It struck her how tangled this had become, how the truth might be something Oliver would grasp before either parent was ready to acknowledge. "Sweetheart, let's focus on what we have right now," Sarah coaxed, crouching beside Oliver to meet his gaze. For a moment, Oliver merely blinked, seemingly parsing through adult words that only tangled around his innocent pillar of understanding. "Okay," he finally said slowly, "but can we still have ice cream?" Fragile laughter broke the tension, a temporary balm. Sarah nudged Ben, exchanging a fleeting look that murmured, "We need to protect him, no matter what." Their family was more than their fears. Their love was built on moments that led to laughter and tenderness, shadows cast by the light of a child's heart. As they headed toward the kitchen, Ben felt a momentary sense of clarity stirring within. Facing the truth felt like standing on a precipice, but perhaps it wouldn't shatter them. It might actually be what they needed to grow stronger. With a small bowl in hand, Oliver's laughter filled the air once again as each scoop of ice cream brought them back to simpler times. But deep inside, Ben could still feel the rumble of questions waiting to be answered. As the melting ice cream dripped onto the floor, a thought loomed larger than any of their fears. How could one family navigate the reality of love against the backdrop of impending change? With Oliver's laughter ringing in his ears, Ben wondered, Could love be enough to conquer the storm ahead? The kitchen was filled with the sweet, creamy scent of ice cream. Oliver's giggles danced around the warm room, adding a layer of comfort that momentarily shielded them from the storms brewing outside their family unit. Ben watched as his son dug into the bowl with unreserved delight, his tiny fingers leaving sticky trails across the table. Each bright splash of color from Oliver's ice cream seemed to spark moments of grace, catching the light just right. "Can I have sprinkles?" Oliver asked, eyes wide with pure enthusiasm. It was a simple request, yet it cut through the tension and made Ben's heart swell with a mix of fondness and longing for easier days. "Sprinkles it is," Sarah replied, rummaging through the cupboard with the energy of a circus performer. Ben found himself smiling, more so with each addition Oliver asked for. It was as if they were building an edible masterpiece, one little request at a time. Underneath this lightness, Ben felt the heavier shadows of reality creep in. The conversation about Daniel wasn't merely a drop in the pool. It created ripples that expanded, marking his anxiety with their motions. Would Oliver still understand the love they had for him when faced with an ever-complex world? "We should have told him." Emily's voice slipped quietly into his thoughts, almost unwittingly. She stirred in her chair, pushing aside her own bowl, her eyes focused on Oliver. "He deserves to know." Ben clenched his jaw, both irritated and scared. What good would it do now? He wanted to yell, to protest, but all he could manage was a restrained tone. "It will only complicate the ice cream party." "But it's not just about ice cream, Ben." Emily's voice took on a sharper edge. "It's about him feeling whole. Isn't that what we all want?" "Whole?" Ben whispered under his breath, feeling his shoulders sag beneath an invisible weight. Whole felt so distant. The air tensed again, and Oliver glanced up, concerned. "Why are you two whispering? Did I do something wrong?" The innocence in Oliver's question pierced through Ben's heart, and he forced a smile, catching a glimpse of the boy's sweet spirit. "Nothing's wrong, buddy. Just adult stuff." "Can I be an adult someday?" Oliver asked, genuinely curious. "Then I can have sprinkles whenever I want." Laughter bubbled up, breaking the suffocating silence, and Sarah ruffled Oliver's hair. "You can have all the sprinkles you want when you're an adult, but for now, enjoy being a kid." Ben watched the warmth envelop Oliver again, but shadows lurked in the back of his mind. Kids weren't just innocent bystanders. They absorbed everything, even things unsaid. What would it mean when Oliver learned the truth? Would it drive a wedge between them? "I just want to keep him safe," Ben admitted, his voice barely above a whisper, like a prayer escaping his lips. "Keeping him safe means giving him the tools he needs to understand." Emily crossed her arms, dislike creeping back into her tone. "You can't keep things hidden forever." A stubborn silence filled the kitchen once more, sticky and intimate, like melting ice cream. Ben felt a pit start to form in his stomach as he pondered his next moves. Could he remain the protector, or would he just be building walls that might eventually come crashing down? As the last of the ice cream was devoured, laughter faded into a poignant silence. The lingering sweetness mixed with the bitter taste of uncertainty. But one thing was clear. Conversations loomed on the horizon that could forever change their family's dynamic. "Can we have a movie night after dinner?" Oliver's hopeful interruption stirred them from their heavy thoughts. "Of course," Sarah responded brightly, though Ben could see the hesitation still weighing on Emily's face. As they made their way to the living room, Ben trailed behind his family, caught between what was familiar and the fear of what lay ahead. What would come next in this uncharted territory? He watched Oliver bounce ahead, a reflection of innocence and hope, glancing back with a grin that could conquer even the darkest of shadows. But deep down, a question expanded within him. What would happen when the light of that laughter collided with the weight of their truths? The living room glowed softly with the flicker of the overhead light, casting a warm invitation, dispelling the chilly anxiety that still hung in the air. Ben plopped down onto the couch, but his mind was far from the comfort surrounding him. He watched as Sarah spread blankets across the floor, a fort-building mission in full swing, and Oliver scampered around, eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Let's build a castle," Oliver shouted, excitement fueling him as he tossed cushions and pillows into a haphazard pile. "Just wait, my little architect," Sarah chuckled, her voice bright and encouraging. "We'll make the best castle ever." Ben forced a smile, wishing he could lean into the lightness they were creating.
Instead, his heart rested uneasily in his chest, the nagging worry that loomed larger than the fortress Oliver envisioned. How could they construct their castle of happiness when the foundation beneath them felt shaky at best. "Hey, you two, ready for the movie?" Emily's voice broke through his thoughts, her tone cheery but edged with underlying tension. She paused, her gaze flicking between Ben and their son, a flicker of understanding passing through her eyes. "Coming," he replied, instantly regretting his forced tearfulness. As they settled in, the sound of popcorn popping filled the air, competing with the chattering excitement that filled the small space. Emily handed each of them their bowls, but Ben detected the hesitance in her movements, as if every small action bore the weight of the world. Oliver, blissfully unaware, dove into his popcorn, his laughter ringing out with a purity that washed over Ben, momentarily softening the edges of his worry. "Can we watch the spaceship movie, please?" "Sure thing," Emily said, her smile brightening truly now as she picked up the remote. The screen flickered to life as images of distant galaxies swirled across the screen. Ben tried to focus, yet his thoughts strayed. He found his gaze wandering to Emily, caught up in her expressions as they settled into the fictional adventure. Shadows flickered behind her eyes, mirroring his own unrest. It wasn't just about Oliver's innocence. They were walking a tightrope, delicately balancing between their son's world of sprinkles and joy and the gravity of truths unshared. The movie played on, but Ben's mind replayed the very recent past. Conversations left unsaid echoed louder than the spaceship's engines. He wanted to tell Emily there was still so much time. Maybe they could wait until Oliver was older, until he could truly understand. But Emily's earlier words came back, lingering like the warmth of melted ice cream on a summer day. Keeping him safe means giving him the tools he needs. A quick glance at their son's face, glowing in the dim light, erupted a cascade of emotions within Ben. This little boy, brimming with dreams and love, deserved more than a secret that could shatter everything he believed to be true. Suddenly Oliver shivered at the movie's scary moment, instinctively reaching for his dad's hand. Ben wrapped his fingers around his small ones, the warmth grounding him like an anchor. "Nothing to worry about. I'm here," he whispered, the weight of unspoken truths mixing with the reassuring bond in that simple touch. As the movie ended, the credits rolling were met with Oliver's urgings for just one more. I felt Emily's eyes on him, imploring him to meet her unsaid challenge. Time slid through his fingers as he sat there, heart racing with a tide of urgency. Would he muster the courage to face those looming conversations? Would they finally confront the secrets hidden behind their family's laughter?
Tonight felt like just a taste of the shadows ahead, and deep within, Ben knew a new dawn was on the horizon, one that could bring clarity or break them apart. But first, he had to ask the question he'd been afraid to vocalize. Would he risk everything for their family's true story? The credits finally finished rolling, and the cheerful theme music that once filled the room faded into silence. Oliver's pleas for just one more echoed like a siren in Ben's ears. He could feel it, the weight of unaddressed discussions tugging at the edges of their family time, cropping up like weeds in a garden. "Maybe tomorrow, buddy," Emily suggested, her voice steadier than Ben felt inside. The hint of disappointment creased Oliver's forehead, but he nodded, accepting the compromise. Ben watched as Emily leaned closer to Oliver, her fingers tangling through his hair, whispering something that made his son laugh again. It was a beautiful moment, a fleeting respite from the chaos threatening to intrude. Yet in that laughter, Ben felt a stir of dread. How many more moments could they savor before the truth would inevitably come crashing down? With a sigh, he shifted on the couch, drawing Emily's attention. She met his gaze, her eyes reflecting a blend of apprehension and hope. He could see it in her pupils, the shared burden they were both carrying, the real conversation on the brink of bursting forth. "I think I should go check on the kitchen. It might need a little tidying up," he announced. The words felt flimsy, a flimsy excuse to walk away rather than face what lingered heavily in the air. "Right, I'll help you," Emily said, starting to rise. But Ben gently pulled her back down. "Just relax with Oliver. I'll be quick," he insisted. As he stepped out of the room, he could feel the tension thickening with every step he took. In the dim light of the kitchen, he leaned against the counter, gazing out the window. The darkened world beyond felt miles away, a different reality altogether. But the moon hung high, illuminating the small backyard, a soft reminder that sometimes things look brighter from afar.
He busied himself with imaginary chores, but his thoughts replayed their earlier discussion like a favorite song stuck on repeat. Emily had wanted them to face it, had urged him to lean into the hard conversations, but he worried about Oliver, worried about how fragile his little world truly was. A soft creak broke the stillness, and soon Oliver appeared, timidly peeking around the corner. "Dad, you okay?" he asked, his vibrant energy dimmed into a quiet concern. "Yeah, buddy, just thinking. You're supposed to be comfortable in the fort with Mom," Ben replied, kneeling down to his son's level, forcing a smile. Oliver shrugged. "I don't want to leave you alone. I can help you." Ben's heart swelled at his son's innocence and kindness. He reached out to ruffle Oliver's hair. "I appreciate that, but it's just a little cleanup."
Go back and enjoy the movie with Mom. "Okay, but I'll be right here if you need me," Oliver said, darting back to the living room, leaving Ben with his swirling thoughts. Should he really gather the strength to approach Emily? The shadows of uncertainty loomed larger, and with every passing second, the conversation felt inevitable, a dam ready to burst. As he finally turned back towards the living room, he found Emily standing at the threshold, her expression unreadable, product of both unease and resolve. She stepped closer, her hand creeping toward his. "Ben," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. He swallowed hard, emotions turning within him, and felt the walls of their fortress tremble. Would this moment finally bridge the gap, or send them spiraling into a deeper chasm? "Are you ready?" he asked, the question lowering like a heavy curtain between them. But before she could reply, Oliver's joyous shout cut through the tension. "Look, I built a tower! You have to see!" They both turned toward their son, smiles tugging at their lips, yet Ben couldn't shake the nagging feeling within. It was still all there, lingering beneath their laughter, like the ticking of a clock counting down. As Ben exchanged a glance with Emily, he silently wondered if they could guide them all toward light, or if fear would forever overshadow the truth. But then again, how long could they pretend everything was fine? The question hung in the air as they followed Oliver, unsure if they were approaching resolution or more shadows ahead.
Ben stood, casting a lingering gaze at the tower, realizing with clarity that this child was worth every ounce of fear they bore. He took a deep breath, filling the air with a resolve burning brighter than before. The time to confront the shadows was upon them. As the credits rolled on the next kid-friendly adventure, Ben felt fingers brushing against his arm. It was Emily, leaning in just enough for him to sense the urgency in her gaze. "Can we talk?" she whispered, her words almost lost to the cheerful noise of Oliver's laughter. Ben nodded, something shifting in him. Together they retreated toward the kitchen again, the fading sounds of their son's delight trailing behind them. The warm hues of the atmosphere wrapped around them, yet the gravity of their truths felt almost palpable, charging the air with an electric energy. "Ben, we can't keep avoiding this," Emily stated, her strength cutting through the uncertainty that had gripped them both. "If we don't talk about it, about Daniel, we're burying ourselves deeper." Ben squared his shoulders, appreciating her determination. "I know, He paused, grappling with words that had lodged themselves deep within him, caught between fear and resolute love. What if it tears us apart? What if revealing the truth fractures what we have? Emily stepped closer, her expression softening. It could, but it also could build us up stronger than we've ever been. If we don't share the truth with Oliver, we're denying him his rightful history. Isn't that what we want? To show him he's cherished? Every piece of him? Ben fumbled with his thoughts, digging deep as fragments of fear collided with the weight of parental responsibility. This was not what he signed up for, yet his heart screamed in acknowledgement of the undeniable truth. Oliver deserved to know. "Okay," he finally breathed out. "Let's talk. Together." "Together," Emily echoed, a look of relief washing over her features, as if a heavy weight lifted part of the burden they had both carried alone. As they emerged from the kitchen, Oliver looked up, eyes sparkling with the remnants of excitement and love. "Did you two talk about the spaceship?" he asked, pouncing with anticipation. Ben and Emily shared a glance, an understanding, unspoken agreement that this moment, this family, would not waver under uncertainty. "We did, buddy, and it's time we all shared something important together," Ben said, his heart sinking into a rhythm that matched his love for their son, a heartbeat that persisted against all odds. They gathered around Oliver, letting the buzz of his innocence ground them. The weight of revelation began to settle bittersweetly between them. As Ben knelt next to his son, he couldn't help but cherish their bond, unbreakable amidst the unfolding trials ahead. "Oliver," he began, the words trembling on his lips, "we want to talk to you about something very important. It's about family, about who you are and who loves you."
It's a part of you that we always want you to know. Oliver tilted his head, his expression a mix of curiosity and trust. "Okay, I'm listening." And as they navigated through the complexities with honesty, arms wrapped around one another, they forged a path through the uncertainty that brought them to life, through love that would emerge stronger than anything they faced. With each word spoken, Ben felt a flicker of hope ignite. This journey would lead to greater understanding. Bound together by more than secrets, they stood as a family, forged in honesty, ready to embrace whatever came next, with love lighting their way. So, as laughter echoed once again, mingling seamlessly with shared truths, they were not just confronting the future. Together, they were claiming it. And remember, this moment is crucial as you embark on your journey with us. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans know the importance of uplifting our community through these actions.